And welcome back to the Ross Report. You know, before we get into our great conversation with Judge Doug Saloom, I got to remind you about those good people over at MPW Properties. They have got locations all over Lafayette that there's sure to be one that works best for you, whether it's a retail business or a professional office space, whatever. They've got them. You notice those red and black signs because they're in the best all over Lafayette Parish, including that one that they're expanding out on Settlers Trace. It's called The Bend at Settlers Trace. Be a perfect retail location. So give Ashley a call, 232-1438 at MPW Properties. They're really good people to work with, and they want to help you. They want to help you succeed at whatever it is. All right, you know, whatever you're planning for your future. 232-1438, MPWproperties.com. I tell you, I am so thrilled to have in studio Judge Doug Saloom, and I'll tell you why. Because I have such admiration for his whole family. His dad, I've known his dad for years in Rotary Club. His mom, just the sweetest, most intelligent woman I think I've ever met in my life. His brothers, everything. Just a wonderful family. The Saloom family has been such an integral part of this community. So a couple of, over the time of the problem with the city marshal, I have questioned, I've gotten down into the question of why do we need a city marshal? So last week, Chief Kip Judice from Doosan came in and we talked about it, and he made a very good argument, but I'm still a skeptic. Of course, he's running. It's no secret. He's running for city marshal. So, of course, he would defend the office of city marshal. But then I started thinking, he said, we're officers of city court. So then I called city court and I said, could I speak to Judge Doug Saloom? And sure enough, the judge called me back and we had a really good conversation. It was such a good conversation. I said, boy, more people need to hear this than just me. So, Judge, welcome to the Ross Report. And before we get into the city marshal thing, tell us about city court. Tell us about your time on the court and city court itself.
Well, first, Carol, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure always to be a part of the community. And Lafayette City Court's actually 108 years old.
Wow.
1910. And as people probably know, we handle everything but jury trials. So we have all the criminal, a lot of the juvenile, all the misdemeanor criminal, I should say. The juvenile matters we handle, impaired driving, civil, evictions, small claims. We do a lot of things in our building.
Yeah, I know. I was in your dad's court one time for an issue with a business issue. He was nice to me. I won. But anyway. But
we're all going to be nice to you, Carol.
No. Doug, how long have you been on the bench?
I was elected in 1995, and I've been there ever since, and really feel blessed. It's not a lot of judges can say they have a picture of themselves in front of the bench that they sit on when they were 7 or 8 years old. It's one of my favorite pictures.
How long did your dad serve in city court?
Dad was elected in 52. He took office in 53, and he retired in 93. So wow. 40 years.
Wow. Well, he was an amazing, amazing man. As I don't have to tell you that he was, and he was legendary in the community. And I can remember anytime kids would go in there for a DUI or something like that, he'd give them that lecture, and I think he straightened out a lot of kids.
I think so. As I used to always tease my friends, they had a bailiff present when they went in front of Dad. When my brothers and sister and I went in front of Mom and Dad, there was no law enforcement anywhere to be found.
There was no bailiff there
Not
running
at all.
Interference. All right, so city court handles all of those things. And the city marshal is an officer of the city court, correct?
That's correct. Louisiana law creates a marshal's office for the city court, and the marshal's office is more or less the law enforcement extension of the court. If you look at it as not as much in the traditional law enforcement role, but they provide our security in our building, they service our papers, they, along with other agencies, affect our warrants. They have an integral part of our business.
Mm-hmm. So my question about it, is there a need for the city marshal? Could those functions not be folded into Lafayette City Police? And Kip made a very good case for why that would not be very functional or very efficient.
Well, over the last few years, we've been hearing that, the last few months, and one of the reasons when you and I spoke, I say, no, we need to take a harder look at the opposite. We cannot survive without our marshal's office, and one of the things when people raise that question to me is, can we consolidate? Sure, everything can be consolidated, but you have to look at the questions of why do you consolidate? Save money, improve services, or remove services that are duplicate services that are not necessary. So our court is one of the most efficient courts. We try to be. I can't say we're the best, but I can tell you we do everything we can to do it correctly. If we have 5 deputies serving papers so that our lawyers, when they file suit in our court, can get their papers served, or notices to people that have court sessions, how do you improve the efficiency of that process if you consolidate? Because if you keep the same number of people, then you're not saving any money. If you reduce the number of people that perform the services, then how is that more efficient? The same thing goes with our warrants and people's concerns for the operation of the court, but also their notices for their appearances. When you look at it, my number one comment on this is, well, let's ask the people of New Iberia what they thought about consolidation. Let's ask this next ballot. I believe we have some deconsolidation bills. So history has shown that consolidation sounds nice and fine when there's a problem. And then when the problem goes away, it's not what they thought it was. New Iberia is in a terrible position because they lost their police force. And we know the pros and cons of consolidated government. There's some that think it's great. I know for the city of Lafayette, as been an employee of both the city and the consolidated government, there was a lot of money in the city of Lafayette prior to consolidation. And the economy has changed and other things have changed. But if all we had to worry about was the city of Lafayette, I refuse to think that we would be hurting in the capacity that we're hurting now.
What are the primary issues that you all face every day in city court? Is it theft or
It's like every other court. Getting people to come to court is like pulling teeth. You would think that if a person has a traffic ticket and they're mad about it and they want to fight the ticket, they'd show up for court, but they don't. You would think if somebody was arrested and they would want to come either clear their name or resolve the matter so they can move on with their life, they would come to court, but they don't. So a lot of our work gets done just chasing people that have no reason for missing court except the fact that they moved and didn't tell us. They quote, forgot about it. Little issues that come into play every day. Just today was actually a kind of a weird day. It was impaired driving court we had, and I may have only issued half a dozen warrants, which is surprising.
Really? How many normally are there?
On a regular traffic day, on a regular criminal day, we can easily issue a dozen to 2 dozen warrants.
Wow.
People get, part of the problem, that goes to the consolidation as well. And then I think it contributes to why we can't get rid of our marshal's office. Yeah.
So those warrants are all served by the marshal's office.
Well, they're put on our computer system. That's a story in and of itself. We have our own warrant computer system because prior administration, and I want to make clear, our court worked very smoothly with Sheriff Newstrom, working very smoothly with Sheriff Garber. We enjoy our interactions, but we have our own warrant computer because our warrants were not placed on anybody else's computer. So we created our own warrant system, but we didn't.
Is that unique to city court? I mean,
to our court, I don't know if other courts have one. I'm sure the larger ones might. But what we did was we created a warrant system. All of our warrants go on it. All misdemeanor warrants that are signed by the 2 city judges go on this. But we have access given to all the local agencies. So if you're in Youngsville or Judice or Broussard, you have access to our computer. So if you stop somebody, you can see if they're right. And of course, Lafayette
there's a warrant out for them.
That's correct, and the sheriff department has it as well, access.
So that's great to hear that there is that sort of you're not a silo. There's that integration among the law enforcement agencies. All right, so you almost have me there. We have to have a city marshal.
Well, the other thing that's important is think about and I'm born and raised in Lafayette. The only time I was away from Lafayette was for law school. Mm. So it frustrates me when the people of Lafayette miss out because, the people of Manny have a marshal's office. The people of Slidell have a marshal's office. The people of Pineville have a marshal's office. Mm-hmm. What did the people of Lafayette do so wrong that their court, which we are, their city's court, don't deserve their own marshal's office to protect them when they're in our building, to serve the papers for those that don't come to court, mm-hmm. to serve the papers so that people know they have to come to court.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I got you. We need a city marshal. All right. Now, let's talk about that. Let's take a break. This is a good place for a break, and we'll come back and talk about, are there efficiencies that could be achieved in the city marshal's office, and the types of processes. You don't do jury trials in municipal court. Okay, so we're going to come back and talk about how all of that works with Judge Doug Saloom. Stay with us on the Ross Report, 232-1542. If you have a question for the judge, we'd love to hear from you.
Making afternoon radio great again. The Ross Report with Carol Ross.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking to Judge Saloom, Judge Doug Saloom, because, I needed to be convinced about why we need a separate city marshal. And as an officer of the court, the judge, has convinced me, the city marshal, we need that. We need that city marshal serving those warrants and keeping the court running smoothly, bringing people into court, et cetera. What about the finances of this? You're saying that you're not really saving money by consolidating with city police. You still have the same number of people, but do you find you have the correct number of people, like serving as officers of the court? Providing security. How many provide security?
Well, we have two bailiffs that are in court. We have the magnetometer up front that's manned by one or two deputies, usually one full-time. I think he is up there all day, and they rotate in and out. I think the question comes in services. What do you want for services? And I've said often, in some city courts, their deputies, like if you travel down towards Morgan City, there's a city court in Jeanerette, their deputies are manning I-49, writing speeding tickets. That's not what our deputies do. As we were talking about, they used to not write any tickets, but every time something would happen in front of them, people would call Marshal Picard and complain that your deputy watched the whole thing and didn't do a thing. So the marshal said, if it happens in front of you, write the ticket. But they don't go out searching for those. So that's not really a duplication.
But the city police still does.
The city police have that.
Yeah, but not the marshal's office.
And the sheriff's department, state police, they all do that, and it's not necessary. Because remember, our jurisdiction goes all the way from really past the Louisiana exit on I-10 all the way to the St. Martin exit.
Oh, seriously?
So
I didn't
from
know
a
that.
standpoint of if it was the marshal's prerogative, they could write tickets on that area. It's not a necessity. What is a necessity in our area is the most important thing that gets done is the efficiency of our court is based upon the number of people we have servicing the court. And can you save money here or there? I'm sure it's possible. It's possible in anything. Does it make the court a better court? As I was mentioning earlier, if we have a warrant team, and the marshal's warrant team to me is a phenomenal group of young people. Shane Duplichin is the supervisor of that group and does a magnificent job locating people. What people don't know is they also, in addition to being on the road, they make 20, 40 phone calls a week to get people to come in before they go find them. We have at least 24 people turn themselves in during the week to take care of their court business without the deputies having to go find them. We're transporting prisoners. Prisoner handled today has been deported twice. They had to. He was deported. We had a warrant because he had an impaired driving charge. And he was deported, and then he returned, and then it was our warrant that allowed them to hold the person in Texas, and we were able to transport him here and deal with the impaired driving charge. So
why not just deport him?
Well, they did. He came back.
And
deport him again. They will. But then that leaves a file open in our matter. This way we were
okay.
able to
You
bring him
closed the
in.
file.
We closed it out, and it's a conviction. Should he come back to our country if he returns, he now has an OWI conviction on his record. So if he picks up a second one, it can be enhanced.
Okay.
Our civil department it does a wonderful job serving their papers. If legal,
well, let me put it this way: I've never heard anything negative about city court.
That's right.
I mean, that in itself, in this day of everybody, cell phones all over the place, surveillance cameras, and people doing this, people doing that. That's pretty amazing, actually.
We try to do it right.
Fly under the radar.
Being under the radar is something we did really well for a long time. But so I always look at it as the election cycle is in 2 years. There's already 2 people interested in running for the marshal's office. If they think there's to cutbacks, to me, it's their right to look into that.
Right, and make that a part of their platform, whatever.
Right, but if you shred it before they even get to there, then what is their purpose? And I think, and I'm, rightfully so, people are upset. And when they're upset with a agency, they look into it. And there was a group that not happy.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, because when Nikki was in there, Mr. Picard, Marshal Picard, I mean, things seemed to run very smoothly. Nobody questioned anything, even though he was doing some of the things that Brian did in terms of using the civil fees and garnishments to supplement his salary, which we found now is...
Well, that's a discussion for another day, so I'll pencil that in.
Yeah, but I mean, my point is that it was all, it seemed seamlessly managed, and I have a great affection for Nikki Picard. Well, I think he did a heck of a job in bringing the agency into the 21st century with the technology that he used, and et cetera.
Wonderful job as our marshal. And whenever I get asked, and I get asked a lot of questions because I'm visible, and I always respond to people when they raise the question you just pointed out. Do people really think Marshal Picard and my dad would have done it wrong all these years if the law was something they questioned? So the law
was unclear, really, until 2011. I mean, until that opinion came out.
Yeah, and it's unclear after that too. Yeah. But that's okay. There's courts that'll have to decide that.
That's for another day.
But even our purposes, my court's purposes, our first question was, hey, are you saying the funds should not be collected? And, of course, we clarified that no, absolutely right.
No, the funds should be collected. Correct. It's just the allocation of the funds.
And I think that's still at issue. But it won't be my court that has to decide it. But going back to something that you mentioned, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things forgotten in all of this is the magnificent job the deputies have done working under constant pressures of office that they didn't necessarily run for or create. Yeah, They're just employees.
I've mentioned that in the past, and I did get some emails from folks saying thank you for mentioning the staff, because they have had to operate under not ideal circumstances, and they've apparently done a very good job.
They've maintained the level you would expect of our court, and it's a tribute to them. And one of the reasons that we were so blessed to get somebody like Mike Hill to fill the marshal spot is because I think as he's getting to know the deputies, he's realizing what an asset they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear from you, because I know that you had to deal with it every day, and so that's quite an endorsement. Let me ask you this, because Don Washington now is the U.S. I mean, is that not incredible?
It is. He's so deserving.
Oh, he's a special person.
Again, Acadiana is blessed to have a lot of wonderful people.
Well, we truly are. Okay, so
I got one for the judge.
Yes,
rewind the tape. So you have court, you have some DWIs, you have some no-shows. I understand you put it out on your warrant to all the PDs, correct? Youngsville, Scott, Karen Crow, Broussard, Dussault. Does the city marshal go to their address seeking them, or do you only use that network looking for that person who did not appear?
All of the above. We have a marshal's team in place that they're the process is simple. It doesn't automatically, when I order the warrant, go onto our computer. We have to double-check service. We want to make sure that the people were notified of their court date. Once we are satisfied that they failed to appear and they had knowledge of their court date, then the warrant is sent to the judges for signature. Now, once we sign the warrant, we put on a signature date into our computer, which automatically populates the warrant computer. Mm-hmm. The warrant computer we set up was to allow people from all over the agencies who interact with other people to see if there's a warrant, if they take the time to do it. Our warrant team's involved in that as well. They obviously, they're not only looking for our warrants. Our warrant team has assisted the Sheriff's Department, the City Police, other agencies on a lot of significant matters that do not come to our court. Mm-hmm. I think what you find, and I think the Lafayette people should be, the Lafayette Acadiana people should be encouraged to know our law enforcement agencies work very closely with each other. Mm-hmm. And when they see a problem, they don't say it's not my problem, it's a Youngsville problem. They interact together, and our warrant system allows them to do that as mm-hmm. well. Again, sometimes a warrant will hold a person long enough for an investigation to be completed in something completely unrelated, where the warrant allows the person to be detained, where if they wouldn't work together...
Yeah. How long, typically a warrant, when you say in a warrant, how long can they be detained, typically,
to
allow an investigation?
Well, 72 hours a person can be detained. On a warrant, if the warrant is a person, once they're picked up, they usually go before the commissioner within the 72-hour period. Mm-hmm. But a warrant is good until it's recalled. So the gentleman that was before me today had a 2012 warrant, and he was deported, returned to the country. Mm-hmm. And when he was picked up in the country in May, I believe it was, our warrant was executed in Texas. And we were able to hold and bring him in. So a warrant is good until recalled. Now, what people get confused about is just because a warrant is good, there may be grounds to recall it because of some types of time limits that have run and other things. But that's the legal process. But the document itself is valid until it's recalled, or it's valid until it's subject to being recalled because of a legal issue.
Well, you mentioned some elections coming up, so we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to talk about exactly judges, when is the election, who's going to be running, who's retiring, et cetera, why they're retiring, age limits, all of that stuff.
All right.
We're going to return with Judge Doug Saloom on the Ross Report. Stay with us, won't you? 232-1542 if you have any questions for the judge. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Well, I have to say, he's our favorite judge. Maybe I should qualify. He's our favorite city court judge.
Well, we have two of us. One of them, I'll tell you like I tell my kids, you're one of my four favorite kids in the world. You're one of them. So that's how I always tell my kids.
All right, there we go. All right, so city court. I just
realized I only have three kids.
Where's that fourth one? How many? Because I hear all the time, those judges, they take it so easy. Like they're thinking of federal district court, and they're thinking of district court, and maybe there's certain negotiating and plea bargains and all that kind of stuff. But city court, you're pretty much there every day.
We run 7 out of 10 days. We have court on the Friday. We usually have a follow-up session, like a pay fine or some type of industry program kind of session. Mm-hmm. We try to stay pretty active. We handle in our heyday over 40,000 cases a year.
Yikes.
It's a little down this year. We're going to be lucky to reach 25,000. There's a lot of reasons. Traffic tickets are down.
Downturn in economy, maybe? Would that have an effect?
No, because we get a lot of the small claims, and we get a lot of the open accounts matters. Evictions are not down. Yeah. We still deal with a lot of those. I just think it is. There's a lot of used to be grants that the federal government would send for example, seatbelt violations or school zone violations. That money's kind of dried up. Mm-hmm. And also there's just in our business, litigation has seen a lot of mitigation. So there's a lot of suits not being filed.
Mediation, you would think, rather than arbitration.
There's a lot, especially in district court. You've seen a lot of their major cases go to mediation and not ending up in the court system.
Besides you, who are the other city court judges?
Well, Judge Bouillon, Francie Bouillon. And Judge Bouillon has been there really since 93, and she's about 2 years from retirement. She's age limited out. So, and I didn't know 39 was the age, but it must be a different number.
We talked about that. Judges are the only elected officials who are term limited by age.
70 years old. You cannot run after 70. you can finish your term, but you cannot run.
So there's going to be some turnover in judgeships.
It's going to be exciting in our area, and I've said this many a time. The last judicial cycle, we had 3 district judges that were elected, just great young judges, and they just jump right in. I enjoy interacting with all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. We have in Lafayette, Judge Rubin and Judge Bouillon. I believe Judge Michaud, Judge Katie in the appellate side are all mandatorily retiring.
Wow.
There's at least
are they all 4-year terms?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years, yes, ma'am. So it's going to be exciting. There's with one of the appellate retirements, there might be a district judge running for that seat, and with Judge Bouillon's pending retirement, and there might be a district judge running for that seat. So. Wow. We have the potential for maybe 6 seats wide open in Lafayette, which is really unique. It hasn't happened since probably the 90s, early 90s. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a big turnover.
It is, but you have, and on the district court level, they have some wonderful judges that are going to still be around and kind of walk through. There's no school of judge, and that's what candidates and everybody needs to kind of learn. You kind of jump in and have to figure things out as you're rolling. And although judicial education, we do 15 hours mandatory every year, but most judges do, I know I do 50 to 60 hours a year.
Wow.
in CLE.
Continuing legal education. If you were going to change anything in terms of the management of city court, is there anything is there any improvement that you could think of that could be made? Oh,
absolutely. We've been working on a website, which we actually have. The flaw in it right now,
you're trying to do like that open that transparency kind of website for people to check on warrants and things like that?
I don't think we're going to have a choice on that. The legislation was passed. They want that. But no, I'm talking about just where you can go look up your case and the dockets and all. We're struggling right now, and we're is the payment, online payment. There's ways you can do it. There's a company that provides a service, but we have created our own service because we want a little bit less third parties involved, and that is our roadblock right now. We're struggling getting that through the city's mainframe. The city is very their rules for use of their network are very stringent, and you have to follow their guidelines, and we're trying to work on that. We're working on it right now, so we're hoping soon, and we've been saying soon.
Maybe setting up a separate portal to the
It's not even as easy as that. It's when you're on the city's network like we are, you have to be very careful because any loophole creates a problem for every agency on it. So we're very protective of that. That's an improvement that is needed, and we should have. We don't use enough email and things. That's important changes. The question then becomes, how do you do it? A lot of courts have gone to emailing notices in addition to mailing the notices, and that's just a computer change. So there's a lot of things we can do on our end. Time-wise, we roll things through. When you hear about unsentenced prisoners and jail overcrowding, one of the things I'm most proud of is we have been fibered for now over 15 years. We have a connection directly to the jail. Every Tuesday, we have our prisoner docket. We have a wonderful relationship with the sheriff's department in the sense if they arrest somebody on Monday night and they want to bring them up on Tuesday morning, they just have to bring them down to the second floor.
Wow.
If we have the charge, we jump on it. So we're very efficient on that end. We're improving our software. I would like to use some more smart board technology because there's nothing worse than stick figures. And a lot of our trials people are drawing stick figures, and I say, but I know that intersection. It doesn't look like a stick figure.
Yeah. All right. Well, Judge, thank you so much. Okay, I'm convinced. We need a separate city marshal's office.
Thank you for your
Thank you, Judge Saloom. All right. Thanks so much for coming by.
My pleasure.
A lot of great information. A lot of great information.
Thank you.
Judge Doug Saloom on the Ross Report.